HIV stands for Human Immunodeficiency Virus, and AIDS stands for Acquired Immunodeficiency Syndrome. The key here is that AIDS is acquired. In your immune system, you have helper T cells called CD4 cells. You should have a bunch of these guys, as they're really good at fighting off infections. A normal amount is 500 to 1600 cells per millimeter cubed of blood, but whenever the HIV virus enters the body, these cells quickly die off, leaving your body more susceptible to pathogens and disease. But how does this happen? Most instances of HIV infecting a person is stopped by the innate or the nonspecific immune system. The first line of defense is skin, and HIV can't enter unbroken skin. However, HIV is transmitted by bodily fluids, most commonly from unprotected sexual intercourse, which enters the bloodstream through mucous membranes lining the vagina, rectum, and mouth. The second way is from blood-to-blood contact, from sharing needles or blood transfusions, and the last way is when an infected mother passes it to her child through the pregnancy and breastfeeding. First, HIV enters the bloodstream, and it targets helper T cells, which is a type of white blood cell. The virus enters the cell and then replicates, and replication is triggered by interleukins. Then the specific immune response starts, and it provides some protection, but HIV is still a chronic infection. The immune response is weakened as more CD4 T cells are destroyed.
These cells are destroyed because of the lysogenic cycle, where the HIV virus stays inside of the CD4 cell as it replicates normally, and then ultimately resulting in the bursting of the CD4 cells, or the lysing.
In an immune response, it first starts with cell-mediated immunity and then humoral, which is the antibody response. However, it can take from 1 to 6 months for an HIV-positive person to produce enough antibodies to actually have an effect on the virus. And most antibodies can't prevent transmission of HIV from one cell to the other. However, HIV has an extremely high rate of mutation. They have what's called glycoproteins that mutate and cause the T cells to not be able to recognize it.
This can be considered both normal and abnormal. The initial immune response goes through its typical process to create antibodies against the pathogen, making it normal, but because the HIV virus targets immune cells, the immune system is no longer to fully complete its response, causing it to be abnormal. Because there's no cure for HIV, the patient will have the virus for the rest of their life, keeping the immune system active and making the response permanent. However, this could be also classified as a temporary immune response because the immune cells will be depleted and no longer able to fight against the pathogen. The HIV virus is transmitted through blood and bodily fluids, typically transmitted sexually by sharing needles and from mother to child. Therefore, preventative measures include sterilization and safe sex.
The test to see if you've acquired AIDS syndrome is to see how many CD4 cells you have in your body. A person without AIDS should have 500 to 1600 cells per millimeter cubed of blood. A person, however, whose cell level falls below 200 cells per millimeter cubed of blood, therefore has AIDS. So, what are the symptoms? Symptoms within a few weeks include an increase in temperature, a sore throat, and fatigue. But as time goes on and the virus is left untreated and a patient develops AIDS, symptoms are extreme and rapid weight loss, night sweats, and ultimately a failing immune system. If the virus is left untreated, people who develop AIDS will live about 3 years, and people with AIDS who experience opportunistic infections will live about 1 year.